All right, I am calling the meeting of the February 3rd, 2021 Legislative and Governmental Affairs Committee to order. A physical quorum of the members is not present. However, pursuant to Section 7E of the Open Meetings Act, members are permitted to attend remotely. Either one member of the committee, the Chief Administrative Officer, or our Chief Legal Counsel are physically present at the regular meeting location. In-person attendance and public comments are allowed, subject to attendance limitations required to ensure the health and safety of those who attend. Pursuant to the Illinois Attorney General's guidance to public bodies on the Open Meetings Act during the COVID-19 pandemic, dated July 2nd, 2020, county board members may participate without being physically present in compliance with the established provisions. Roll call, please, Teresa.
Member Kaplan? Here. Chair Dessart?
Here.
Member LaPlante?
Here.
Member Renahan? Member Selman?
Here.
Vice Chair Zay?
Here.
All right. I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the Legislative and Governmental Affairs Committee, the regular meeting from Tuesday, February 9th, 2021.
So moved, Selman.
Second, Zay.
All right, thank you. Roll call?
Member Selman?
Aye.
Vice Chair Zay?
Aye.
Member Chaplin? Aye. Chair Dessart?
Aye.
Member LaPlante?
Aye.
Member Renahan?
Okay, do we have any public comments?
No.
Awesome. All right, so under Chairman's remarks, I'd just like to thank and welcome Senator John Curran for being here and Representative Deb Conard. Deb and I have known each other for more than a decade. Hi, Deb. Good to see you again. You guys are awesome. I'm sorry to have had to reschedule you from a couple of weeks ago, and our meeting ran long, so thank you for coming back to us. I'm going to ask Senator John Curran to speak first. Actually, I'd like to do this first. Member Chaplin, would you kind of give the committee, especially the new people, one of the reasons why we're doing this is because historically the Legislative Committee has hosted a legislative breakfast. Could you tell us about that?
Yeah, so when I was first on the board, we used to, early January, we used to have a breakfast. We'd invite all the legislators that represent DuPage County down in Springfield, and we'd bring our lobbyists in, and we have a nice little breakfast, and we would be able to talk about, our legislative priorities. And it was also nice because we were assigned tables, so we necessarily weren't sitting with people that we're used to sitting with, but we're sitting with they always sit next to the lobbyists and other state reps that weren't necessarily from my district. So it was a great way to get to know our other legislators. So it was a great event, but I believe some members of the public complained, and we were breaking the Open Meetings Act, so we stopped having our legislative breakfast. But it was a nice event. I don't know if Member Day or Curran want to add anything into that, but it was a nice event.
And since we can't do that now, we're bringing our legislators in via Zoom, so thank you both for being here. Let me first introduce Senator John Curran. Senator Curran was sworn in to represent the 41st District in Illinois Senate in July of 2017. Prior to the General Assembly, he served as the vice chair of the DuPage County Board right here and served as a board member from 2008 to 2017. Following 19 years working as an assistant state's attorney in the Cook County State's Attorney's Office. Senator Curran received his Juris Doctor degree from Northern Illinois University College of Law and a Bachelor of Science degree from the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign. So welcome, Senator Curran. What's going on in the Illinois Senate?
Well, Chairwoman Dessart, thank you very much. It's very nice to meet you, and appreciate the invite to the Legislative Committee. It's nice to see former colleagues, Member Chaplin and Member Zay. Great to be with you. I will tell you that, in terms of the Illinois General Assembly, it's oftentimes in the early part of the session that we kicked off in January here. Things are going to be a little slow, but it will pick up, and it'll pick up to a robust pace here soon enough. So I do miss those legislative breakfasts. Unfortunately, I'm not sure I've ever got to. I think I may have attended one as a legislator before all this shutdown started, but certainly enjoyed that. But I really enjoyed it on both sides as a county board member. It was great to just interact with all the legislators, put a name to the face or face to the name, and get to know them, because that makes it easier. I will tell you, I previously served as the spokesperson for my caucus on the local government committee for the last term and a half, I guess the last 3 years in the Senate. I'm not on at this time, but that's where not all, but quite a few issues that affect county government and specifically DuPage County run through. And I will tell you, the more that you're able to educate members of the General Assembly, especially those in DuPage County, as to what county government does, I think you'd be very surprised how nuanced county government is, how little legislators in Springfield actually know, unless they happen to have a background in county government, as to what the county does, because your scope is so limited in jurisdiction wise. In terms of what's going on in Springfield, to give you an update, your actual question, I would, right now our bill filing deadline is Friday. So that's really where we're going to, see what's out there, see what you get a sense of what certain legislators are looking to work on. I'm in the process now of being approached by other members in the Senate, all on the other side of the aisle, looking to work in a bipartisan manner, collaboratively on some of their agenda items, issue items. I don't quite have everything filed that I'm filing yet, so I'm more of a Friday filer, but we are getting things out of LRB. I know the House has already, I think, had their deadline, and then bills are going to get assigned out. I do sit on the assignments committee that it's our version of the rules committee in the House, where everything starts. And we got the governor's budget address recently, and I think the message was there's no easy choices ahead of us. I think we're going to have a robust session coming ahead. So hopefully we'll be in constant contact to make sure you're involved and we're collaborating and making sure DuPage County government's issues are being addressed, or if there's something out there that you think is going to be problematic. Certainly I want to hear about it. And I know my colleagues in DuPage, both sides of the aisle, feel the same way. They want to hear from you about anything positive or negative with regards to what's going on in Springfield.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Senator Curran. And if you could hang out for a little bit, we'll take questions after I introduce Representative Conroy. Representative Deb Conard has served as the state representative for the 46th District since January of 2013. She currently serves as the chair of the Illinois House Democratic Women's Caucus and has been a strong advocate on behalf of additional funding and expanded support of both mental health and substance disorder treatment. Representative Conroy is a former member of the District 205 School Board and a longtime community volunteer. Welcome, Representative Conroy.
Hello, Dawn. It's great to see you. As Dawn mentioned, we've been friends for over a decade and have some great stories that we can share at a later date.
No, I don't think we'd want to share those stories.
No,
we don't those stories.
So actually, I have to make one correction. I did not run for the Women's Caucus chair again. I was actually made a whip on the new speaker's leadership team. So one of the goals of our Women's Caucus that I was one of the founders of was to create a bench and to provide leadership roles for as many women as possible. So when I was given the privilege of becoming a whip, I did not run for chair again, and Camille Lilly is currently our chair. I do chair the Mental Health and Addiction Committee for the state of Illinois, which takes up the majority of my time. Most of my legislation that's been filed, and as the senator alluded to, our filing date was last Friday. And I think I have about 20 some bills, primarily around the mental health area. I do have an election bill that I've been working on for a couple of years. We're very hopeful will pass this year. And that is to allow 16 and 17-year-olds to pre-register to vote, that we're excited about. One of the largest pieces of legislation I'm working on this year is I filed a bill that will make permanent telehealth services. That basically the same as what the executive order has been. We know, and I know all of you are very aware, that we are currently fully into the second pandemic, and that would be mental health and addiction. It's a huge crisis, and we have many different areas that we need to dig into to try to help people, to take away barriers of care, to make sure that folks are getting access. And one of the other big issues we have is we don't have enough beds. So those are primarily the areas that that I work in terms of, you know, I'm excited that, you know, Chairman, that Don has taken over this chairmanship, because I really enjoy working together, and I consider myself to be part of your team. So it's, you know, the more information that, you know, I can get from you guys, and I can tell you firsthand that Chip is amazing in terms of being your lobbyist and being part of that team, and making sure that, you know, we proactively do what we, if there's something that is outside of your scope that we need to do statewide, that we have a great line of communication so that we can make sure that we address those issues. And, you know, before they become adversarial, before they become, you know, they blow up too largely, that, you know, we work together and make sure that we solve those issues. So I'm excited about the new legislative committee, and happy to have been invited today.
Thank you so much. Okay, questions. I'll open it up. Questions from the committee. Any questions? Members A.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, thank you, Representative Conroy. Good to see you. I do have to say you are one of the best legislators on getting money back to DuPage. You always work hard for us. You do a great job when we need it. And Senator Curran, we know you're always looking out for us also on projects. We had some discussion the last couple of weeks. First, the capital bill. You know, the capital bill came out. You know, DuPage didn't get a lot of funding in the capital bill. You know, we hardly got anything for roads. We got some for some wastewater treatment facilities. You know, today we were talking about, you know, the COVID, the vaccines. Doesn't seem like we're getting the amount we should be getting. And it's just, you know, overall, just we're hoping that you'd look out for, you always do, but you know, it seems like we run into always some stumbling blocks down in Springfield, that DuPage is this big, you know, county with lots of money, and they don't have any concerns or needs. And, you know, I just think that, you know, we do. And I think you all both know that. And what struggles do you go through when you go to legislators and look for support on bills for DuPage that, you know, that happen? And do you get that same feedback from them that say, it's DuPage, you don't need it? I mean, it seems frustrating to us, and I'm sure it's frustrating to both of you.
So, so what I would say to that, Jim, is that, you know, when I first got to Springfield, DuPage was known as wealthy and entitled, you know, everywhere you went. And I do have, there are many colleagues that I butt heads with often that'll say, oh, here comes Conroy again to tell us there's poverty in DuPage County. And everyone has heard of Queen Bee School District that knows me in Springfield, because I lead with that often. But it, you know, we have the same needs as others. Yes, we may have more, you know, more resources in some areas, but the vaccine is a classic example of how, you know, our county really has been left out in terms of, you know, the way that they've allocated those vaccines. And, you know, I coined the phrase Hunger Games, because my mom, who's 81, and her friends all had fully entered into the Hunger Games trying to find a vaccine. So continuously have been calling the governor's office. Yesterday we were told, and I'm hoping this is true, that the information that they're getting now, and with the Johnson & Johnson vaccine hopefully coming online soon, they are telling us, and I hate to say it out loud, but they're telling us that by April, anyone who wants a vaccine should be able to get one. So we're going to continue to push them on that. And, you know, I can't say it enough. I say it all the time. You know, DuPage County is, you know, a huge priority, and we're the second largest county in the state, and we need to make sure that we keep that on the forefront of conversations in Springfield.
You know, Jim, I would just add, you know, setting aside the executive branch, because I think, you know, Representative Conroy touched on that and the vaccine issue, and oftentimes some funding issue and what gets released. But amongst the legislature, specifically the Senate, you know, I find that colleagues want to know if DuPage has a position on something. They want to know DuPage's insight. I mean, you are seeing, the county in general is seen as a resource of knowledge, a resource of information, and well thought out in terms of positions that you take. So I actually think the opposite. You have a little more pull, a little more sway when used effectively, because you are a resource. I mean, in the area of juvenile justice, you were really, we were cutting edge in the 80s and the 90s and 2000, and that reputation is still there. And you know, stormwater, that reputation is still there, is built over time. You've been a big part of that, Jim, and that reputation's still there. So you know, I think you got a lot of sway and a lot of heft. I think it's a, you know, it's a benefit that you have bipartisan representation. I think you want to leverage, you know, having members in leadership. You have Representative Conroy in leadership. You have President Harmon, Leader Holmes in the Senate are both in Senate leadership. You have Leader Durkin in the House, also in leadership. So you have, beyond just, you know, legislators, you actually have some, you know, leaders that may have a little more insight on some particular issues that you're able to reach and touch. And I did want to just, you know, I think maybe touch on it a little bit. I also do find that your approach on government, you know, on being a presence in Springfield is extremely helpful. You have someone on the ground that I can get a hold of at any point in time on any issue. So, I mean, I come from your, you know, Jim, we work together, Liz, we work together. I come from your board. I know somewhat some issues, you know, I may not know the most current issues that's going on at the board right now, but I know the county government and what issues are important to you. And I have someone I can find at any point in the Capitol and say, hey, does DuPage have a position on this? Or, you know, did you catch this? This might be of interest to DuPage. You want to pass it up and see, do they care, or do they have a position, or is it something they want to tag onto? Having someone there present that's responsive and available. I mean, it's not just having someone there, but, and Chip does a great job on that. It is a huge resource to me because, quite frankly, in the chaos of a typical legislative day, when I have multiple committees that I'm running to, and they always run late, they don't start on time. The Senate's the worst. I think the House is probably better, but the Senate has terrible reputation for starting on time. Everything gets backed up. It's hard to pick up the phone. And so I'm not going to pick up the phone, or I would find it very difficult to pick up the phone and call, you know, Chairwoman Dessart on an issue. It is just easier to have that one steady contact there in the Capitol. I can shoot a text. Can you come see me? I got to talk to you about this, or find me, and it happens. So, you know, I think you have a big presence. I think part of that is having that boots on the ground that is there to help quarterback and work with all the legislators that represent DuPage and push your issues. And you know, so I just want to compliment you on that. And I think, you know, hopefully that's something that continues in terms of this legislative committee really driving issues, because you actually, it's the opposite of what I thought. I thought no one listened to us when I was in your spot on the county board. And I got down to Springfield and I realized how big a voice DuPage actually has, and it matters.
I agree with John on that 100%. And having, and really having Chip there, he gets bicameral, and we always have the information that we need. Two of the points that I brag about a lot is the juvenile justice, the things that have been done in DuPage County with juvenile justice, and as well as mental health. And I know, Jim, you alluded to, you know, me bringing money home, and I'm still working to get you guys that $5 million, which you will get. We need to get that money so that we can open that new facility, so that folks, you know, that are arrested with mental health or addiction issues don't go into the jail system. They go into this, the other facility. So that's hugely important. And it's still a priority that I'm going to stay on top of.
Member Selman, you had a question?
I'm good, thank you.
Okay, other questions?
Member Chaplin.
Member Chaplin.
Hi, thanks. Hi, yeah, Deb and John, it's great to see both of you. My question was back to the Capitol bill. So disproportionately, did DuPage, with that bill, did they give out a lot of money to other communities, or do you know if there was a difference, or was DuPage similar with the allocations for that Capitol bill plan? Do you know that, or?
So in terms of member initiatives, that's where I got the money for the intake facility. The overall Capitol bill, I guess I'd have to, honestly, Liz, I'd have to go and look to see exactly, you know, where individual money went. They were overall probably larger projects. I think it was more the member projects where the individual counties did better, in my opinion. And when it comes to member projects, that's where it's so important that, you know, especially your committee is talking to Chip, and, you know, Chip is talking to us. And I was able to have a great meeting a year ago, I think it was a year ago, with Karen Ayala. So she identified this program that you guys had were trying to open and still needed an additional $5 million. And so I know the Senate, that I'm sure John and I know senators, other senators, we're all looking for ways to find that money. So whether we can get it into a capital bill or we can't get it into the capital bill, there's still possibly member initiatives, and that's where we were able to get that money. So it's making sure what the needs are, we're aware of them, so that we can, you know, beg, borrow, and steal, whatever we need to do to try to get that money. So
Yeah, you know, the member initiative, you know, mine was broken up a lot with municipalities in DuPage County. I do cover 3 counties. I have Cook and Will County as well. But it's specific to DuPage County government, I had some storm or drainage projects in the Timberlake area, working in conjunction with Nick Kottmeyer on that to identify. Obviously, you know, member initiative, oftentimes you're looking in terms of your district. I think how you had that, your capital needs plan in that book you put out to members and on the web is incredibly helpful, and it was helpful. I think when you look at the overall capital bill, a couple things to keep in mind in terms of weighting. Some of the projects that the state took on in the capital bill are very large. And whether that project ended up in DuPage or not, I-80 would be, the rebuild on I-80 and the bridge work would be a great example. While technically not in DuPage County, and that would not fall in DuPage's bucket, that is a roadway that is accessed by many of our residents and what had fallen into tremendous disrepair. It's a huge dollar amount. I think that Discovery Institute's partnership in the city, that is the type of initiative that is going to have outflow in terms of benefit to businesses in DuPage County. You're likely to see some businesses that grow in that incubation, that settle out in DuPage County and grow their businesses here, having generated and start there, and you're going to have employees back and forth. So it's really hard to measure county by county. I know, I believe it was just directly through the county's own lobbying efforts that you got some of those large projects that Member Zay alluded to down in your wastewater treatment facilities and stuff. And those were certainly large dollar items that would exceed any member initiative budget. Another point on the capital bill, it's all there, it's all codified, but the money's not released. And I think that's where there's opportunity and there's peril in getting dollars released from the executive branch to fund these projects. And that's what we need to constantly work on, because it's nice that it's written somewhere, but if the funding's never released, that's eventually going to wash over the board, and there'll be another capital bill in 8 or 10 years time. And whatever hasn't already happened is just going to be set aside, because at that point you're going to have a new GA that's going to want to tackle their initiatives and not honor initiatives from a bill that passed 10 years ago. So I think the focus now should be identifying the projects that you have listed and getting those dollars released, figuring out what legislator helped you with them, working through their offices to continue to press the administration, the executive branch, to release those funds and get moving on it.
Senator, Representative Conroy said that she has something like 19 mental health bills on the table right now. What are some of your pet issues, or some of the things you're working on?
Well, I don't think I have 19 bills total. So so some of the issues, I have an environmental bill that is starting in the House that I am going to be the chief sponsor on in the Senate, having to do with, food safety. It's an initiative of the Illinois Environmental Council. Hopefully it'll come over to the Senate, and we'll be able, I'm very confident. I've already spoken to the environmental chair, Senator Melinda Bush, and she's very positive and supportive of the initiative. So I know I'm going to have a good committee to move it through. I carry a lot of your criminal justice bills in the Senate from State's Attorney Berlin. So those initiatives, be working very diligently on that again this session. You know, so criminal justice is a big issue. I'm not aware I have much in the way of local government this year, but certainly open to as issues pop up. If there's anything that you need in that respect. I am working on an animal welfare bill. It's something I'm kind of excited to have a hearing on, because it's probably somewhat controversial, and it has to do with vaccines and ensuring that we're not administering vaccines to terminal dogs that are terminally sick if they have the requisite threshold and level of, or actually it's not even if they're terminally sick, but if they have the requisite level or threshold of the rabies vaccine already in their blood, because oftentimes over vaccinating can lead to some detrimental effect for animals. So there is some split amongst veterinarians on that topic. So I can't promise that something's going to happen. I think it's going to be a very good discussion. And I think we're likely to see a lot of cross current on that amongst people that both sides passionately care about animal welfare. And, you know, but hopefully through talking dialogue, we might figure out what's the best path forward. So those are some of the initiatives that come to mind.
Thank you. Member Selman.
Thank you, Chair, to start. Senator Curran, just to follow up with a question. As I'm sure you remember from your time at the county, animal services depends on those rabies vaccines to make them not reliant on our general fund. They're self-funded. So just a sort of a reminder that as we're doing that, and I think it, you know, it sounds like a proper and it's following science, just to make sure that we're not shortchanging our animal care services and, you know, harming our budget. Just a little tidbit to remind.
Yeah. I appreciate that, Ashley. Thank you. And it's not something that would be predicated or lead to much of the way of reduction of the administration. It would just make sure that it's, and I think the law already somewhat reflects this, that animal welfare comes first and foremost in that analysis. So again, I don't think it would be much of a reduction, but you know, we just want to make sure we're proceeding appropriately and safely. But thank you. Yes, I will keep that in mind.
Thank you.
Other questions? All right, well then I'd like to go back to the COVID question just real quickly, because or the vaccine question. We had a robust discussion during our meeting today about how, and I know we have to recalibrate our expectations because this vaccine's only been out for 8 to 10 weeks. But one thing that was brought up during our discussion today is that DuPage County has about 8% of the population, but we're only receiving about 1.5% of the vaccines. Do you have any insight into what's going on there? Either of you.
Well, I think we're at a loggerheads with the administration on this point. It's not a partisan issue. It's an issue of resources. The administration has been slow to respond, but they're getting better at notifying health departments about what to expect coming. So we had a big issue with planning. The administration's not being transparent, in my estimation, on providing the data as to, and the information around how they're determining, you know, how much vaccine's going where on a weekend, your allotment on a weekend and a week out basis. And that was we had a committee, the health committee that I sit on, that Chairwoman Senator Morrison chairs. We had the administration before us as well as local health officials, and we pressed them on that transparency and providing. They have an equity factor that they do it per population, and then they have an equity factor that they apply to that population to determine the allotment. They're not very transparent on the equity factor and the weighting of the equity factor, which would even be more important, how it's weighted. So they're keeping that closely guarded. We're trying to get at the information and pressing them that in terms of getting the public all behind us, because, you know, early on in this campaign, the governor rightfully talked about this being one Illinois, and we all needed to get on board together to battle this pandemic. And I think it would be a big step forward if they would improve on the transparency end, especially centered around the weighting of that equity factor.
And so, you know, we're ready here in DuPage County. We are ready. We have over 100 sites that we could, you know, stick those needles in people's arms if we could just get the vaccines to be able to distribute them. Other questions from the committee? All right, well, I'm going to thank you. Thank you so much, Representative Deb Conroy. We are going to have coffee just as soon as we can safely have coffee. And thank you, Senator Curran, for coming here and talking to us today. Thank you both so much.
All right, nice to see everyone. Thank you.
Have a great day, everybody.
And with that, any old business? I'd like to thank Cheryl Marquet and staff for their tireless work. They just do an amazing job, and I'm so proud to be on their team. Any new business? All right, can I get a motion to adjourn, please?
So moved, Chaplain.
Second?
Selman, second.
All right, and roll call, please, Teresa.
Member Chaplain? Aye. Chair Desart?
Aye.
Member LaPlante?
Aye.
Member Renahan?
Aye.
Member Selman?
Aye.
Vice Chair Zhang?
Aye.
All right, I hope you found that all helpful and enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Meeting adjourned.